In this video, we'll explore how JavaScript handles function arguments and parameters. JavaScript is really flexible here. You can call functions with fewer or more arguments than expected. We'll learn about optional parameters, default values, rest parameters, and the spread operator. Okay, first let's see what happens when we call a function without providing all the arguments. Here's an example. Notice that x gets the value 5, but y is undefined because we didn't pass a second argument. JavaScript doesn't complain, it just sets missing parameters to undefined. This makes parameters optional by default, but undefined isn't always what you want. To handle optional parameters more gracefully, we can provide default values right in the function signature. Let's take a look at another example. So let's run this and see what happens. This is an interesting example. When I pass both arguments, it calculates the average normally. When I only pass one argument, y defaults to the value of x. And when I don't pass any argument, both default to 0, because x defaults to 0 and then y defaults to x. Notice that default parameters can reference earlier parameters. Y equal x is perfectly valid. Now let's see the opposite scenario. What if we pass more arguments than the function expects? So let me show you an example of this. Let us run this. Notice that only the first two arguments have been printed. JavaScript doesn't complain again about the extra arguments. It just uses the first two values and ignores the rest. This flexibility can be convenient. But what if you actually wanted to handle any number of arguments? What if you wanted to allow a function to have a variable number of arguments? Well, this brings us to the next topic, which is rest parameters. So the rest parameters allow you to collect any number of arguments into an array and then use it. Here's an example code. So I have a function called SumAll. And notice the syntax. The 3 dots before numbers is the rest parameter syntax. It gathers all the arguments into an array called numbers. Now I can pass as many arguments as I want, and the function will collect all of them into the numbers array, and the body of the function will basically calculate the sum of those values. Let us also look at how we can combine rest operator with the spread operator. This is the part that gets a little confusing because both of this are basically using the same syntax. It's just the 3 dots, but it's the context that you're using them. They're going to behave differently. And in one context, it's going to be the rest operator. In the other one, it's going to be the spread operator. So let me show you an example that has both of them. So this is our SumAll function again, but notice how I'm calling it this time. All right, so I have an array. And what I'm doing is that I'm using the spread operator to basically unfold the element, to spread out the elements of the array into individual arguments. So effectively, this is similar as calling SumAll with 7, 8, 9 separately. Right? Be careful that if I were to just pass values without this, let me run this to you. So this is 24, and if I pass it just without that, it's going to behave very strangely because it basically just received one array, right? And then it tried to go over the elements of that array where the elements were interpreted as a string. And so it ended up concatenating the string 0 and the string representation of that array. So what you want is the spread operator to get the correct behavior. All right, so we've covered function arguments and parameters. JavaScript lets you omit arguments, which in that case they would become undefined, or you can set default values for them. You can handle variable numbers of arguments with rest parameter, and you can also spread arrays into individual arguments with the spread operator, which is useful. Be careful with the rest and spread operators. They look similar, but they're different things. Rest parameters collect argument, a spread operator expand an array.